Do you think the Angels are in legitimate trouble in this 11-game losing streak that they've been having?
I don't think it's a good sign for the amount of money that they've spent in the last couple of years. I mean, Trout's been hurt. You obviously have Otani, pulling in basically two jobs as a pitcher, and obviously MVP season that he had last year at the plate. You have Rendon that you made that trade for. Should I say? You signed in free agency from the Nationals after they won the World Series 2 years ago. You go and you sign Noah Syndergaard this offseason to kind of solidify that number two pitcher behind Otani. John Madden, no, rest in peace. Joe Madden at the managerial spot. You kind of try to bring some championship pedigree in terms of leadership in the dugout, and it's just not boding well. Mike Trout's not hitting very well. The pitching staff is just not playing very well. I mean, you look at the scores of the last 11 games. I'm going to read from today's game all the way to their last victory. So against the Phillies, 9-7 loss. Phillies again, because it's a 3-game series, 7-2. Phillies again, 10-0. The Yankees, they played a 3-game series. Supposed to be 4, but one game was postponed. They lost. This was the closest game in this entire losing streak. 2-1. They only allowed 2 runs. They lose to the Yankees 6-1, 9-1. Then they play the Blue Jays. They gave up 11 runs. Granted, it was 11-10, but again, that's still 11 runs. It's not a good showing from their pitching staff. They lose 6-5. They lose 4-3, 6-3, 7-2. There was only one game in this 11-game stretch where they did not score more than 2 runs, and that was that game against the Yankees. How are you supposed to win games when your pitching staff's ERA is absolutely atrocious? What are you supposed to do when you're giving up more than 4 runs per game every single game during the streak? Your best player is in an absolute slump, if I've ever heard of one. And you're going and you're looking at this and you're saying, dude, we're not just losing, we're not scoring. Outside of today's Phillies game, like I said, they scored 2 runs, 0, 1, 1, 1. Your pitching staff sucks and you're not hitting consistently. It's not a successful formula. And like Kyle said, it's June. I'm not going to go out here and say that they're not going to make the playoffs. I'm not saying that they're not going to win the World Series. We've seen teams turn around drastically in the months of August and September. So I'm just looking at this and I'm saying it's not a good look. It's definitely not something that you want when your team is finally healthy, especially when you get your best player, arguably the best player in baseball, and Mike Trout back. And I don't know, man. I don't know what's going on in LA for them to fall this fast and this hard. But if they don't get their act together, they're going to quickly fall behind in a very competitive American League. And I think that they need to kind of get this together and right this wrong, because you can't just put all this pressure on Mike Trout. You signed Anthony Rendon. You have plenty of other players on this roster that are going to be able to kind of contribute. And again, I'm not asking for a 275 batting average, 20 home runs, and 80 RBIs from every single individual. But again, when you pay the money that you have for the players that they have on this team, you would expect a better result and a better record this point in June. I know I say a lot about the Yankees, but we have found a way to do what we need to do and have the best record in baseball up to this point. And this is the difference between the two teams, because at the point that Kyle was talking about when we were talking about baseball, the Yankees and Angels were tied for the best record. It literally has gone in an opposite direction to where the Angels have plummeted in the American League and the Yankees have absolutely ascended to great feats. So you can tell that just 2-3 weeks in the MLB can mean an absolute difference of a incredible season and a oh shit, here we go again kind of season. So I say that the Angels got to get their act together, or this is going to be one of those seasons where you look at everybody and say, do we blow this up because this shit is not working?
I mean, Kev, when I look specifically at their pitching staff has been absolutely atrocious. I mean, like you said, to be giving up on average like 5 to 6 runs per game, you can't have that. Granted, if you're only giving up like 2 to 3 and the bats aren't there, that's one thing. Then you just kind of specifically focus on the hitting. But yeah, when your pitching staff is struggling this bad, winning games is just tough. I mean, it's not easy. Granted, I mean, they have great hitters like Mike Trout and Otani, but when they're not producing, it just makes it makes it that much more difficult to be able to go out there and win baseball games. I mean, Kev, just to kind of focus on Mike Trout specifically, Trout hasn't gotten a hit since May 29th. That was over a week ago. So at that time, his last hit, he had a three-hit game against the Blue Jays on May 28th. His batting average was 320 at the time. That batting average has now dipped to 274. So he's almost lost a half point in his batting average in just a week. He has been struggling that bad. He struck out, if I get this correct, he has struck out like 8 or 9 times in like the last like 6 to 7 games that they've lost. And this is this is one of the best players, if not the best player in baseball, and he's struggling this bad. It just kind of goes to show like where the Angels are right now. I mean, for God's sakes, they were 27-17 like just 2 weeks ago. They were basically at the top of the AL West and one of the more exciting teams in the AL this season. But to see them just completely fall apart in this stretch that they've been on, it's been absolutely horrendous. Now, I will say this. It's June. This is not a situation where they're going on this 11-game skid at the end of August going into September when they really need to ramp it up to try to make the playoffs. So this is a situation where I think the Angels can bounce back from. But first of all, their pitching staff needs to get it together. They need to start dropping that ERA closer to 3 if they're going to have any chance to win any sort of games in a competitive fashion moving forward. And the bat's got to show up. Mike Trout's got to be better. Ohtani's got to be better. There's a boatload of reasons why the Angels have been struggling. But by and large, it's the pitching primarily. The pitching has to be improved because there have been some games where the bats have been there. The Angels have scored multiple runs. Like they put up over 10 runs in some of these games, or they at least put up 10 runs or close to it. But when you get swept in 3 straight series, that's horrendous. That might be something like you see from like the Reds. That might be something that you see from the Royals, not from the Angels. So it's bad right now. I'm not going to say like this is like the season's over. They got to blow this thing up and they got to start from scratch. No. It's still early. They can recover from this. But we'll see what happens. They got to find a spark from somewhere because right now they're in a very precarious situation. I mean, be under 500 when they were over 500 by at least 10 games or so, not too long ago, that's very self-defeating. So hopefully they find some sort of stretch where they can win some easy games, kind of get back on track and kind of forget about the last 2 weeks because the last 2 weeks have been just utterly atrocious. But we'll see. It's still relatively early. I'm not going to say the season's over for them. They have plenty of time to make this up. But yeah, this is a pretty bad stretch for them. Hopefully they can get it back together.